Kevin and Kathy have a mortgage with National Trust Bank, and they have to pay their homeowners insurance, property taxes, and mortgage in one monthly payment to the bank, and that is known as being an escrow. An escrow account, because taxes are paid annually, not monthly. And a lot of times homeowners insurance is paid as an annual premium as well. And so what they'll do is they will call you an escrow when they take your mortgage, your insurance, and your property taxes and lump it into one payment. The payment for the mortgage and possibly the insurance get paid, the taxes goes into an account and is held until they're due at the right time of the year. So that you're just paying one payment. It's actually quite nice when that happens. So the monthly mortgage payment is $1,233.56. Semi-annual property tax is $5,206, and annual homeowners insurance is $1,080. So we need to know what's the monthly payment that they're making. Okay, first of all, semi-annual, that's how many months? Okay, it's twice a year, so it's 6 months, right? So we're going to take that 5,206 and we're going to divide it by 6 to get the monthly tax bill. I'm not even going to try. So 867.67. Okay, so that's the monthly taxes. And then we take their homeowner's insurance, it's annual, so that's divided by 12. So that's $90 a month for insurance. And so we take their mortgage, their taxes, and their insurance, and we add all those together. And they're paying $2191.23 monthly. Okay. So Tom and Lori are considering buying a house, and they're figuring out their potential costs. Their adjusted gross income, monthly mortgage payment for the house that they want, annual property taxes, and homeowners insurance. Okay, we want to know if the bank is willing to loan them the money based on these facts. Okay, so banks use what's called, there's a front end ratio and a back end ratio. They usually look at both before they determine. I usually look at both the front end and the back end ratio. They want it to be 28% or less. If you're over 28%, it's really probably really not going to happen. So first we need to do is we need to figure out their monthly housing expenses. So they have a mortgage. Okay. They have annual property taxes, but we need to divide that by 12 to get the monthly fee. And then they have annual insurance, which we'll need to divide by 12 to get the monthly fee. Okay. So add all that together. And their monthly expenses are going to be $2,089.33. Okay. Now their monthly gross income, we have their annual We need to divide that by 12. That seems wrong, but I'm going to double check myself. Okay. Must be nice. Okay. So we've got our housing expenses and we've got our monthly income. So we're going to divide 2089.33 by 11,292.58. Wait a minute. Did I divide that right? What? 2089.33 divided by 11292.58 equals. Yeah, I did a decimal in the wrong place or something. So it's going to be 18.5%. So their front end ratio is 18.5%. That's less than 28%. So yes, they're likely to get that mortgage. So when we look at the back end ratio, you have your total monthly expenses. Divided by your monthly gross income. If you look at the front end ratio, that was housing expenses. Just house. So the mortgage, insurance, property tax. The back end ratio is all of your monthly expenses. So your house, your insurance, your property tax, utilities, car payment, car insurance, credit card bills, cable TV. I mean, like every single thing you pay for every month gets counted in on this. So we have monthly mortgage payment. We have annual property taxes. So to figure out that monthly, we're dividing it by 12. We have homeowners insurance. We need to figure that one out monthly. They also have $510 per month car loan. Their average monthly credit card bill is $5,100. Now, the banks do not look at the minimum payment amount because you're getting billed for that whole amount, so they look at the whole balance on your credit cards. They don't look at the whole balance on like a car loan because you just have a set monthly payment. Does that make sense? So any credit card, it's like the full balance. And then if you have medical bills and things like that, that goes on there too. So I lost my calculator. That's a terrible place to put it. Okay, 824. And then we have 1,007 divided by 12. Okay, so this is monthly bills. And then we have to figure out the monthly income. So to find the back end ratio, I take those total monthly expenses and I divide it by the income. Okay, now banks want this to be less than 36%. They've got 57.9%. No loan. Now these are not the only two deciding factors. You've got your front end ratio, you've got your back end ratio, and then of course there's your credit history that comes into play. They'll look at things like your length of time on the job. Let's say I went out tomorrow and I got a brand new job paying like $300,000 a year. Yay. Could I work there for like a week and then go get a home loan based on that income? No, because I could be fired 2 weeks from now and the bank doesn't want to risk it, you know. So there are other factors that come into play. But the big three, of course, are the front end, the back end, and then the credit score. Those are like the big deal. Okay, so it's a term, yeah. So here's what a oh, stop it. Here's what a balloon mortgage is, okay? It is a high last payment. And then generally all the other payments are very small. So maybe you pay $300 a month for your mortgage on your big giant house. Yay! And then you have a balloon payment at the end of $27,000. I'll do it once. Or something like that. There can be a very high balloon payment at the end. Some people get this because what they're hoping to do is they'll take out a shorter term mortgage, hoping to fix their credit. And so when the balloon payment is due, they're hoping to get a different loan at a lower interest rate, better terms to pay off that back last payment. And then it's a different mortgage. I don't know all the reasons somebody would take these out, but you have a high payment at the end. One type is an interest only balloon mortgage. So you're paying interest only. So let's say I bought a $50,000 house. I mean, it's a really cheap house, but let's say I buy a $50,000 house and I take out a mortgage on it. I'm only going to pay the interest on that mortgage for the next so many years until the interest is all paid off, and then my last payment is the $50,000 that I borrowed to begin with, the principal. Okay, so that's how that works. How we figure this out, they take out a 6.1% 15-year $300,000 mortgage, but they don't have a lot of money. So they're, wow, am I typing bad? Years in the future with only one eye. They intend to have much more money from the success of the restaurant. If they, when they get a loan, they'll fit well with their current and future incomes, and how much will they pay in interest for the loan? What are the monthly payments? Okay, so we're going to use the monthly payment formula to find out what the monthly payments are, which is back here, right there, monthly payment formula. I'm going to select that if it'll let me. Now I'm going to bring it to our current spot. I'm going to make it smaller. Okay. So our principal is $300,000. Our rate is 0.061, and we want to divide that by 12. And we want to raise that to the power of 12 times 15 because it's a 15-year mortgage. Okay. I did the hard part. You guys do the rest. Just kidding. I just need a calculator that's able to do it. So, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide 0.061 by 12. Which is going to give me 00508 with repeating threes. And then 12 times 15 is 180. I didn't do the denominator yet. Okay, so I did that gives me 2.49. I multiply that by 0.005083, and then I multiply that times 300,000. And my denominator, or my numerator, becomes that. Okay. Now for the denominator, I start over. 0.0621 divided by 12 plus 1 raised to the power of 180 minus 1. So now I have to divide that. All right, so we've got this monthly payment. We're going to figure out what is the total that they're going to be paying for the loan. So we're going to multiply that times 180 because that's how many payments they're making. Okay. So the whole loan is going to cost them $446,216.40. If we take this total and we subtract the original loan, that's our interest. If they're to make an interest-only balloon mortgage payment, so if they're paying interest only, we're going to take that interest and we're going to divide it by 180 payments. And they're going to pay $812.31 monthly for 179 months. On the 180th month, so the very last payment, they're going to pay $300,812.31 because they have to pay all of that principal at the same time. Okay. Now, there's different ways, like I said, there's different ways people attempt to deal with these. One way is they start saving up money so that they can try to save up $300,000 in the next 15 years. Other people take out additional different mortgages to make the balloon payment that they'll get maybe a better rate. So, you know, there's more than one way to deal with this.
What's the best?
The best way to deal with it? Don't take out a balloon payment.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, unless, like I said, because you have this giant payment at the end to deal with at that point. If you take out a standard mortgage, your payments are the same throughout the however many years you take. And this is not just how much does the house cost, but how much is this going to cost me altogether? Interest and everything. As you saw with some of our, we did one where it was like a $400,000 house, and once the mortgage after 30 years was done, it was like $1.5 million that you paid for it. You need to think about, is this house going to be worth $1.5 million in 30 years? Maybe, but you need to take that into consideration. You need to take into consideration the down payment. Do you have to make one? If so, do you have enough money to make a reasonable down payment? Location. I don't know if you've heard this for advertising or businesses. It's location, location, location. Right? It's important though. Location is important. If you only kind of sort of like the area, don't buy a house there. Because you're talking about a multiple year investment. You can't just, like, it's not like an apartment where, okay, my lease is up in 6 months, I can leave. It's a house. Like, even if you decide you don't like it, sure, you can sell it, but you can't sell it just like that. So, you know, location is very important. You want to also, I mean, you want to think about, like, the neighborhood. You want to think about the schools, if you plan to have kids or if you already have kids. Like, you want to think about amenities, like what's around there. Are you going to have to drive 27 miles to get to the nearest 7-Eleven? Or do you want to have to drive 27 miles? You know what I mean? Like, these are things to think about. Number of rooms. And maybe more importantly, number of bathrooms. Right? People can share a bedroom, but you can't really share a bathroom at the same time. Also, if you like to cook, you want to look at the kitchen. Like, is it the kind of kitchen that you want? Are you going to be happy in that kitchen? Does it have enough counter space? Does it have enough cabinets? Storage, closets, cabinets, pantries, very important things to take into consideration before you buy a house. This is not on the list here. Water pressure. Nothing worse than you get a new place and you turn on the shower and it's all this little tiny trickle and you can't get the shampoo out of your hair. Anybody experience that? Yes, horrible, right? Water pressure. You want to look at the size of the property. Not only will this affect the assessed value, but you also have to deal with the care of the property. So if you have a small yard, it's less to deal with. Maybe that's what you prefer. Or if you want a bunch of space, then you need to consider that. Like, how much work are you willing to put into the amount of land that you have? Condition of the house and the property. Sometimes you can get a really good deal on a rundown place and it's a fixer-upper, a handyman special, things like that. And maybe that works for you. Maybe you like to remodel. Maybe you like to do landscaping and clean out property yards or whatever. Like, then go for it. But if that's not something that you like to do, you're going to end up spending more money hiring other people to fix the things that are wrong than you would have spent if you'd gotten a different house. So you want to take that into consideration and like be honest with yourself. Like, don't go in and go, oh, I can do this. And when you're really not going to, just be honest. You want to look at the heating, cooling situation. You don't want a system that's too old. A 20-year air conditioner and heater is going to cost you an arm and a leg monthly, and then they're very expensive to replace also. So you want to make sure that it's not too old, and you want to make sure that it's the right BTUs for the size of the space, which you know how to do now. And in addition to the mortgage, you need to figure out the approximate cost of running the house. Okay, what's the average electric bill? Electricity. Water, what's the average water bill? Is there gas? How much is that? If it's a house with a pool, you have to factor into the average monthly cost of the house that running a pool uses more electricity, uses more water, uses more chlorine. These are things that you really want to factor in, because maybe you can afford the mortgage, and the big giant house costs a lot to heat and cool. You can afford the mortgage, but maybe you can't comfortably afford the mortgage and the electric bill. So these are things to consider. Recurring costs occur over and over and over again. So the recurring costs of your house are the mortgage payment, the insurance, taxes, things of that nature. Non-recurring costs are one-time costs. Okay, examples of non-recurring costs, moving. Okay, now granted you may have to pay to move more than one time, but you only pay to move into one house one time, right? Okay. Closing costs. The down payment is only once. Things like that. Closing is a meeting between the buyer and the seller. Buyer has a U. And attorneys. That's probably not obviously attorneys, huh? And the bank rep. Okay, and this is where the official sale takes place. Now you could buy a house, let's say I go out and I decide to buy a house today, and I go and I make an offer and they accept my offer, and then it's okay, the house is mine, I've bought it, except not yet. I have to go through the process of all this stuff to get to the closing, and the closing could be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month from now. It's all arranged during the process of the mortgage, getting the mortgage set up and getting the final everything approved, and there has to be an inspection, and things have to happen before the closing can occur. Closing costs are paid by the buyer. Okay, and They vary from state to state. Because each state makes its own real estate laws. And then examples follow. But the buyer always has to pay the closing costs. Now, the earnest money deposit or a good faith deposit is if I'm interested in buying a house. I officially have not bought the house until the house is closed, so technically speaking, money is not due until the sale actually occurs. But you'll give them like a good faith deposit to let them know you're actually serious, that you're really going to go through with the whole process and you're going to buy the house, and you're not just going to be like, haha, psych, and take off. And then they've missed out on other possible buyers. So it's like a holding deposit. You give them money, they hold on to the house and don't sell it to somebody else out from under you. So it goes both ways. You give them the deposit to show that you're honest about your desire to buy the house. If they take the deposit, they're telling you that they're honest about their desire to sell the house to you and not to someone else. It's not 100% necessary to have one. It's just that sometimes if you're talking about a large house with a very large mortgage, lots of money is being borrowed, you might want to have an attorney look at the paperwork just to make sure that everything's properly filled out so that there's nothing wrong, and then they come to you at closing and represent you at the closing. There's the origination fee. This is money paid to the lender, which is, generally the bank. And that is for the paperwork for the loan. So, that's not free. The title is the legal ownership document. It's kind of like a car title. It's the same thing. When you own your car outright, you own the title. When you finally own your house outright, you own the title. This follows a title search. This is before property is sold. And what they do there is they make sure it's a verification that the seller actually owns the property. They may not own the property outright because technically until the mortgage is paid, the bank owns the property. But the title search will show you that this, like, say, Wells Fargo Bank actually owns this house, but they're holding the lien for Joe Smith. Joe Smith is the person that's allowed to sell the house. When you take out a mortgage, the bank charges you the interest, but then they may also charge you points. And each point is 1% of the loan. And they could charge you 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 1.5 points, whatever. This is money that you pay at the closing. So you have to pay the points before you get the loan for the house. And now this is not, like, it doesn't come off the principal or anything. This is just extra fees, so that get paid to the bank. There are origination points that are similar to the origination fee, and they're paid by the buyer. And they are to pay for the loan application. Okay, and there are discount points that reduce the interest rate. Okay, so I shouldn't say percentage rate, I should say interest rate. Okay, so if you are paying discount points, you're paying this money up front, but then your interest rate on the mortgage actually comes down. It becomes discounted, and it comes down about 0.25%. Okay, so if you had like a 6% loan, it would bring it down to 5.75% loan. It discounts the interest because by discounting that mortgage, you pay more money up front, but you save more money than you actually paid over the life of the loan, typically. And that's approximately. It's not a set 25%. And then you have something that's called prepaid interest that you might pay up front. Okay, prepaid interest is interest that's paid. Okay, so arrears is the mortgage interest normally. And the interest is paid at the beginning of the month, and then you pay the interest for that month when you pay your mortgage payment. So like this weekend is December 1st. So the interest for December on a mortgage would start accruing on December 1st, and it would accrue all the way to December 31st. And then when you pay your January mortgage payment, you're paying for that December's interest that's accrued. So you're paying later for accrued interest instead of paying up front. Prepaid interest is that you pay the interest at closing for the upcoming month. Okay, so when I close on my house, if I was going to close on my house on December 1st, I would pay December's interest at the date of closing, and then I would have already paid it, so I don't have to pay it in January. So when I pay the January payment, instead of paying December's interest, I'm now paying January's interest. So every month I'm now prepaying my interest. So it starts a cycle of prepaid interest. Can you see a benefit of that? Yeah, you're going to actually, if you're doing the prepay, it lowers your overall interest costs because you're paying it ahead of time, which means it's not being factored into the new interest calculations. So it does. I mean, it's not going to lower. You know, we saw that one interest. It's $146,000. It's not going to take that down to $50,000 or anything like that. But it will lower. It'll be a significant. It's just not like a earth-shatteringly lower. Transfer tax is the fee paid to the state for transferring the title. And you pay a title transfer fee when you like buy and sell a car too. Like anytime you have to transfer a title from one owner to another, it costs. A $600,000 house at 7.25%. All right, we want to know if we make a $15 down payment and we're closing on September 6th, how much will we pay in prepaid interest at the closing? Okay, so first we need to figure out how much is our down payment. So we're going to take that $600,000 and we're multiplying it by 15% because we're making a 15% down payment. So I'm going to pay $90,000 down. Okay. Since I'm paying $90,000 down, I don't need to borrow $600,000. I'm borrowing $600,000 minus $90,000. So my loan is not for 600,000. My loan is going to be for 510,000. Okay. So then I take my interest rate of 0.0725 and I multiply it by 510,000. Okay, this is APR, so annual percentage rate. So this is my annual interest. But I don't need to know my annual interest. I want to know my monthly interest. So, yeah. I take that annual interest and I'm going to divide it by 365 days a year because this is going to be a more accurate calculation than doing monthly, and this is actually going to cost us less. What did I do wrong?
You did 7 and get 5, 75.
Oh, thank you. I did it right in the calculator, so that's good. Okay, so my daily interest will be 101.30, and I am closing on September 6th. How many days are there in September? You guys don't remember my poem? 30 days, half September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31 except for February, which stands alone. So 30 days. But we're doing it on the 6th, so there's 24 days left. So if I prepay the interest, I'm going to pay 24 days worth of interest. I'm going to pay for September. So I have 101.30 times 24 days. Okay, so this is how much interest I would need to prepay.